Finally, tonight, we take a break from politics. 4 decades after the federal government established special education services for students with disabilities, school districts around the country are still trying to live up to the law. Last week, we showed you some of the progress, but there are still big challenges ahead, and in some cases, questions about how well those efforts are working. Special correspondent John Telenko of Education Week has the second of 2 stories he filed from California. It's part of our weekly education series, Making the Grade, which airs Tuesdays on the NewsHour.
In Los Angeles, the nation's second largest school system, it took a class action lawsuit filed in 1993 to bring attention to the failures in special education. Teachers weren't trained, records weren't kept, and thousands of students were not receiving services. Sharon Howell, the district's special education director, says progress has been made.
I think we've come a long ways. Even at that point in time in LAUSD and in other school districts, special education was still thought of as a very separate group of students, and most of them were in segregated classes someplace.
But not anymore. Today, many of the problems have been resolved, especially when it comes to inclusion. In 2003, about half of all students with disabilities were taught alongside their non-disabled peers for the majority of the day. Now it's 90% for students with learning or speech and language disabilities.
What page does chapter 3?
For other special education students, there's still a ways to go. 17-year-old Leo Villegas, who has Down syndrome, spends most of his day in a separate classroom.
7.
But even that's beginning to change.
I want Leo to be included in the community. I don't want Leo to be segregated all the time. I mean, come on.
Rosie Villegas is Leo's mother.
I want other students or other people to see Leo and accept Leo the way he is, even if it doesn't work, to try.
Go over this assignment. Leo has something to share with us first for the first term, trust.
Trust, illegal combination of corporations or companies.
At his mother's insistence, Leo is in a few general education classes, like economics.
Okay, you ready, Leo?
But not without support.
Okay, look here, please.
Monet Gothard is with Leo all day, helping with his behavior and classwork.
I was reading a story to him, and then he was answering reading comprehension questions.
How often is Leo doing the same things as the other students in class?
Well, for it to be meaningful for Leo at the level that he's at, the work has to be modified. And what sound does the letter F make?
F.
What sound?
What are the reasons that unions became necessary?
It's a good buzzword, Gen Ed. Put the kids in Gen Ed, Gen Ed, Gen Ed. I don't know if it's for everybody.
Most of the time, Leo is in Ross Kramer's class, together with other students with intellectual disabilities.
And what could happen to Luke if he sleeps on the job? What do you think, Leo? Is his boss gonna like that?
No.
No. I don't myself usually send kids to general education unless it's part of the meeting and the parents insist on that happening.
Why?
Would I have sent? Because I don't think they could access the curriculum as well.
This one, Leo.
A lot of the work's being spoon-fed and done to them. What are they retaining?
So it's gonna go
What are they getting from that?
The FTC was established to...
Others see it differently.
That young man, when he leaves school, he's not going to a special education job. He's not going to a special education movie theater. And so it's important for our students to be in that community of individuals that they're going to spend the rest of their life with when they leave it.
With that in mind, Los Angeles has been phasing out schools that serve only students with disabilities, like McBride Special Education Center. There, we met Brandon Buschini.
Would you like to go to a regular high school, yes or no?
Brandon, a 20-year-old high school senior, has physical and cognitive delays that prevent him from walking and speaking. He's been at McBride since he was 3 years old.
No.
So you would like to stay here for school?
Yes.
His mother agrees.
I'm not against inclusion at all. I actually wanted him to be in a quote-unquote regular school when he was small. It's just that based on his needs, it's not the appropriate place for him.
Brandon requires a full-time health care aide in addition to other assistance.
Mr. Brand,
He needs an occupational therapist. He needs a speech therapist. He needs a teacher that's working with a speech therapist to be on the same page. An environment that he can access with his wheelchair. And you don't find that anywhere else.
All those things are available. We can make all those things available on a general education campus. Why would we not give those students an opportunity to have exposure to their general education peers?
on the wall with, oh, you would like red?
I would say that their job is to educate my child, and my job is to socialize my child. A safe environment is important, and many of these other schools just aren't safe.
Many buildings aren't even accessible, lacking basic accommodations like ramps. Fixing that could cost over $1 billion, twice as much as what's been budgeted.
So when we're done with this,
Brandon's school is already equipped. But what about
a
academics?
little harder. Use those muscles, Brandon.
What are your educational goals for Brandon?
Working with the right teachers to actually access Brandon, because Brandon is fully capable of understanding in real time.
Yellow.
But due to his developmental delays, it makes it difficult for all of us to communicate with him.
What is it? Do you have that in your box? Do you have that word?
So Brandon is fully there. Shouldn't he be taking regular classes?
It depends on the teacher, and it depends on the services. So that's where it becomes a little bit tricky.
Because getting services is not easy, even for parents who support inclusion.
Constantly there is a fight with the school district because they're saying, yes, we are providing service when they're not. For example, Leo has an hour of speech a week. So first I call and say, when is the day that my son is going to be getting service? I go there, and the speech therapist is not there.
What you're raising here is outcome 13. Outcome 13 is the measure the school district has not been able to achieve. If appropriate.
David Rostetter, who was brought in by the courts to monitor special education here, is referring to the final requirement of LA's long-standing lawsuit. At least 85% of students must receive 100% of their services.
The best the district has been able to do is to be, on average, with service provision, 72% of the students receive 100% of it. That's absolutely, completely unacceptable.
Nice job, Ja'Cory. Good
Speech
acting.
therapist Ashley Hall has 55 students between two schools.
30 minutes. All right.
That's about 11 students per day, plus at least an hour for paperwork, parent meetings, and not to mention lunch.
Perfect. So there are days that we have to accommodate the children in different ways. So maybe a child who you would see one-on-one or one-on-two ends up being in a group of children with 4 or 5, and they don't necessarily get the time that they need. All right. Lowering caseloads would be a significant help. I had about 36 students when I was in a private clinic, and we saw success much more rapidly because those numbers were lower.
They lose speech therapists every year over this. You can't perform in that environment.
Go grab the door too.
We know that no matter how much work we do, there are always going to be teachers or administrators or parents who are going to push us and say what you're doing is not right. And that's okay, because it makes us think about what we're doing, and it makes us really make sure that the programs that we do have meet everybody's needs.
For Brandon Buschini's family, it's imperative he receive services. His mother and other parents have turned to the courts to keep schools like his open.
So this kind of speaks to the level of the law breaking.
LA Unified declined to comment on the lawsuit, which is awaiting a court decision on whether the case will move forward. In Los Angeles, California, I'm John Tulenko of Education Week, reporting for the PBS NewsHour.